Welcome back to Dom's Roundtable. In this video, we'll be continuing our journey through the Land of Shadow as I show you all of the most important things that you can collect and complete before breaking Miquella's Rune. This will give you the absolute best chance of not only 100%ing the DLC in one playthrough, but also show you how much of the Shadow of the Erdtree you can complete without affecting a single story element or even fighting a single boss. So if you haven't seen part 1 already, make sure you go back and watch that so that you're all caught up, and then let's continue our journey through the Land of Shadow where we left off in Lower Rauh. We will be starting here at the Ancient Ruins base site of Grace, and as you can see I've marked a bunch of stuff that we can do throughout the entirety of Lower Rauh before we then progress south towards the Cerulean coast. As you see, there is also a bunch of stuff to do down towards the south of this realm as well. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel because I will shortly be bringing out part 3 of this series where we will be covering the rest of the things you can do before you go ahead and break that great rune. For now though, as we're heading pretty much directly north and clearing out a few camps of enemies, there is only one thing of note here, and that is the Ash of War Scattershot Throw, which you can acquire by taking out this scarab. And then before long, the path north will bring you to Telu's Ruined Forge. Please be aware, this is just a series of things you should do. This is not a full walkthrough. That's exactly what my Things You Missed series is for. So I will show you these locations, but I won't take you through them step by step because that would take forever, and I want to keep this nice and brief for you. So now that you're at the forge, explore it at your leisure, and then I will meet you back outside. Another thing I will do to help you out actually is just call out the key important loot in the forge so that you can make sure you've grabbed everything. There are 3 new Smith script weapons in here, the axe, the great hammer and the shield, and you can also grab Telu the Golem Smith's Spirit Ash. With that, we are now nearing the lake, and there isn't really anything notable here apart from a few smithing stones and 5 sanguine amaryllis, which is a decently rare crafting material. The last important thing you want to do in this area is head directly south from here to this small camp. And in this chest you can loot the Pearl Shield Talisman. We are now done with the northeast of Lower Rauh, and we covered the south in last episode. So now, once I'm out of combat and back at the site of Grace, we shall head to the Temple Town ruins and start progressing to northwestern Rauh. Please note again, as this isn't the Things You Missed series, I'm not going to cover absolutely every single minor item in the world. Really basic things like smithing stones, minor crafting materials, and even some lackluster armor sets I will be ignoring and just showing you the key things that you really want to grab on your first run of a new area. So as you've dodged all of them pests and hopefully not died to the spam of pest threads, eventually you can snag this site of Grace, and then we will continue on northwards. As we approach this hill with 2 sleeping rune bears, bear in mind this is supposed to be a series where you can grab everything without fighting. So if you do crouch and stay very, very quiet, you may wake the rune bears, but if you just stand still and crouch, they will go back to sleep again. And once you've finished looting this rock, for the real reason we're here, head slightly south and you can get the Gloried Attire armor set. And right next to this armor set, should you wish to engage, you can also fight Rugalia, the Great Red Bear. This is a very, very tough optional boss, especially for certain builds, and definitely not the purpose of this video, so if you want to ignore this bear for now, that is absolutely fine, especially because all you get is a new incantation, the Rauh of Rugalia. Either way, once you have ignored or defeated the bear, we will now head all the way down to the southwest. On top of this pile of unknown substances on the way is the Greater Potentate's Cookbook 8, which allows you to craft hefty, fetid pots. Lovely. And then as we go even further south still, you will find yourself at the entrance to Scorpion River Catacombs. This is a monster of a dungeon, and I will cover it in full step by step in the Things You Missed series. For now, let me give you a highlight of the main things you don't want to miss as you're progressing through the dungeon. Some of the most important loot includes a Shadow Realm Rune 4 here, once you have dealt with the Basilisk Ambush. Then, once you make it to this room with 2 Mesmer Soldiers and a Mesmer Knight at the end, once you've defeated them, you can loot Black Knight Captain Hugh. Progress further still on top of the ceiling trap and over into the next area. And just behind these imps you will get the Knight's Lightning Spear spell. Further still, once you have progressed down the lift into the next area, you can snag yourself a Great Ghost Glovewort. And finally, elsewhere in the dungeon in this chest is going to be the Ancient Dragon Knight's Cookbook 2. That is the key loot in this dungeon, but it can be quite a confusing one, so as I say, I will cover it in full in a video more suited to do so. With that, we are completely done with Lower Rauh, so now meet me back in Belurat at the small private altar. As you start following my initial route from the small private altar site of grace, I will say I feel like this is probably the area in the game that has been explored the most thoroughly. So I won't show you much here because you've almost definitely got it all already. I will just show you the most missable thing and the most important thing that you definitely want to do before you leave this settlement. Once you've gone up this ladder, you want to take a left at the top of the stairs. And by these mini scorpion spiders, jump over these ruins. And in this room, once you've dealt with all the insectoids, you will find a Erdtree fragment, a Cross of Miquella, and a brand new talisman. Some of the most important and missable loot in Belurat, so make sure you go and grab that. Now I will show you something similar at Castle Ensis before we move on to the Cerulean coast. Starting at the very first site of grace before you even enter the castle, we're just going to beeline past all the enemies up the stairs, and once I get to this second area, if you want to, climb up these stairs here where you see the soldier and dog coming down, will be the iconic weapon from the trailers, the Milady. However, the most important reason we are here, them Erdtree fragments are very, very important. So progress through the underpass of this mountain, and once you have defeated the Black Knight and any other straggling enemies, just up the top of this hill, you can grab another Cross of Miquella, a note, a Erdtree fragment, and a new Site of Grace. Very, very loot heavy area, super important stuff. So even if you're not planning on doing Castle Ensis for a while, at least come here and grab these few things. And now it's finally onto the Cerulean Coast. If you followed the last video, you should already have the Cerulean Coast Site of Grace. As you see on the map, there are lots of these big obvious structures. The first couple here I haven't marked because they contain more minor gloveworts, such as 8s and 9s, which are purchasable infinitely anyway. The other two marks you see over to the left, marked 1 and 4, the reason I have marked these is to show you that these structures are inaccessible from ground level and not currently obtainable. One of them we will be able to access later on in the video, and the other I will cover in part 3 if people would like me to wrap this series up with a third and final part. Now that you know what we will and won't be covering, let's just start heading west. Hug the cliffs if you want to avoid the Wandering Cemetery Shade, and once you've dodged all the balls of lightning, you can grab a Shadow Realm Rune 3. Remember this exact location, as we'll be coming back here in just a second once we have grabbed the safety Site of Grace. And it's right here that you can see the two huge structures that are inaccessible from this location, and in between them to the northeast is a giant mountain pass. Feel free to explore this at your leisure. There is going to be a mini boss there along with a bunch of loot, and where I've marked right in the north here is a brand new cave as well. Now you can go and explore the whole mountain pass if you wish, that I'm currently tracing on the map. However, all of the red areas that I'm showing off as well are actually above us in a different zone, and proceeding through this other area will allow you to access one of the two structures that I mentioned earlier. So we will cover them in part 3 if you would like me to. For now, let's head back to where we just looted the Shadow Realm Rune 3. You will see a Cemetery Shade, which again you can just ignore if you would like. However, once I have defeated him, I can then loot the Gravekeeper's Cookbook 1. So next up, once you have dealt with the Cemetery Shade and grabbed the cookbook, we can now head directly below and you'll see a hole leading underground. Carefully proceed down here, and once you reach the bottom, heading one way will bring you out on top of the inaccessible structure that I showed you earlier, and here you can loot a great glovewort. Once you have done that and you've taken a look around at the beautiful views, then we can head back down and go the other way through this cave. Once you come out the other side, proceed on top of the mountain you just came out of, and on top you can loot the perfumed oil of Rauh. Once you have done that, off towards the other side of this small island, you will find the southern nameless mausoleum. Head inside here to begin a mini boss fight with the Dancer of Rauh. And once she has been defeated, you will receive her weapon and her entire armor set. With that, we're done with the north of the Cerulean coast, so we'll head back to the first Site of Grace and start proceeding south. As you're heading down to the south of the Cerulean coast, there isn't any notable loot, however you will be ambushed by a Ghostflame Dragon. Obviously this is not required, so feel free to simply run past it if you want. The dragon itself is definitely one of the easiest ones in the DLC, but you will get mobbed by skeletons as well, so just be warned of that if you do decide to take him out. And if you do, as always, you'll be rewarded with a dragon heart and a somber ancient dragon smithing stone. And as I am leaving in a little montage of me destroying this Ghostflame Dragon, I would just like to take a few seconds to say thank you so much to all of our Patreon members. We've had so many new people join our community recently, and it's absolutely wonderful to see. Genuinely, I am so grateful and so thankful. And for anyone else who isn't signed up, who may be interested what's on offer, for just a couple of dollars a month, you can receive early access to all of my videos, along with a bunch of other rewards depending on your subscription tier. So head over to patreon.com/Dom's Roundtable to check it out. And for anyone who does sign up and join the Roundtable, thank you again so much. Next up, if you haven't grabbed the map fragment already, you will find it right here. Once you've got that, I am going to continue heading south, primarily just to show you how little is here. You will see absolutely tons of the blue wormy boys. And then before long, a giant will start lobbing hefty pots at you. Beeline towards him, doing your best to dodge all the pots. And you can and should kill him for a hefty cracked pot. Now, if you were to continue even further south, there is no notable loot here. There's loads and loads of the new deep purple lily crafting materials. And if you want, you can head down into the fissure to grab the Site of Grace, but you cannot proceed here until you have broken the rune, which is exactly what we don't want to do for now. So instead, we're going to head northeast along the cliff edge. And as we reach the very edge of the eastern cliffs, you will see another Cross of Miquella, along with a Erdtree fragment, a Site of Grace, and some quite rare crafting material, the Nectar Bloom Burgeon. From here, we are going to keep heading north, careful of the lightning balls as you jump on top of this structure. Now hop back down facing east, and then take a leap of faith off this cliff onto another structure. And here, right at the end, you will find a great grave glovewort. Now teleport back to the new Site of Grace you just activated, and there is one more thing we'll be grabbing before we head over to the east towards the next area. We're going to keep heading north past the giant gravestones, over this structure and onto the adjacent mountain. Once here, you can loot the St. Trina's Disciple Cookbook 1, and then carry on further still to get yet another great grave glovewort. Now start heading east all the way down towards the beach and the Finger Creepers. There's no loot along most of this beach, but if I just open the map now, you'll see there is something right down in the very corner, and we're going to head slightly north into a new area. In this corner, very minor, but you may as well grab it as we are here, is a Shadow Realm Rune 2. And then at the top of this hill, I know I said I'd ignore all of the Glovewort 8 and 9s, but as it is literally directly in our path, you may as well grab this Grave Glovewort 9 and a few Grave Cricket crafting materials. Now, just over the brow of this hill, you can grab another Site of Grace, and for the most part, you can leave this area. It's needed for a quest way further on in the DLC. However, what you are going to do is staying up on these cliffs, just head directly northeast, and before long you will find yourself at a Remembrance duplication sarcophagus. And with that, my friends, as long as you've explored the couple of optional areas that I pointed out to you, you have now grabbed every single thing you need from the Cerulean coast. Let me know if you'd like me to wrap this up with a part 3, because there is a few optional areas we still haven't even visited yet that we can do before breaking that great rune. And with that, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.